My name is Jenny Cropper-Rines, and I am the current chair of the Communications Committee for the Ocean Pines Association. And I've been doing that for quite a long time. And I'm here just to introduce the history section of the Virtual Residence Academy. We've got some highlights. What we're going to have available for you to take a look at is a slideshow with some very cool pictures from the very, very beginning, and just some important dates in the history of Ocean Pines. And so we're in our 53rd year. So there's some good, interesting photographs to take a look at. I also chaired the committee that did the events for the 50th anniversary year, and we had a year's worth of events. Our hope was to have something for everyone, and we really learned a lot about the beginning of Ocean Pines and what Ocean Pines means to the people that live here, because there's some very long-term residents, some of the folks from the very beginning, and we did the history panel where they had the opportunity to answer questions from people within the community about how the lots were sold and how the canals were dug and things that we don't think about because they're here already. And looking at some of those pieces of the history really shows the evolution of the community and the vision of the developers. They were very before their time, and they brought us something that's still a living, dynamic community today. You know, for folks who don't know, there's a book called The History of Ocean Pines written by Bud Wagner, and it covers the 1968 to 1998. But it even goes back to the land ownership prior to the development of Ocean Pines. And there's some pretty interesting highlights in here. And I believe you can get a copy at the library to look at if it's something you're really interested in reading. But I think interesting to know is when they were starting to develop Ocean Pines and there wasn't a Route 90 bridge, there was a paddle boat that was taking people over to Ocean City. There was a double-decker bus that took people around Route 50. And the sales center was actually in the parking lot of the beach club. And it evolved from there. And of course, Route 90 was around 1970, and that opened up a very easy access into Ocean City, and it made the land obviously easier to sell. And from that point, it never stopped growing. The 50th anniversary year, in addition to bringing out all kinds of folks who participated in the activities, people at earlier anniversaries that buried time capsules. The 50th anniversary committee was tasked with locating the time capsules, which we very easily found one of. And the other one was a bit of a project. And so we started with digging a little hole with some shovels and no time capsule. So then Public Works brought out the Bobcat thing, whatever, I'm not sure what it's called, and dug a really big hole where we cut some power lines. So the power went out. Basically, a lot of power went out. So that was then it became, okay, well, now we really need to call in Miss Utility. So we called in Miss Utility, and for a couple of weeks there, I found myself waiting for the phone call to hear we were going to dig that day. And we never did locate the time capsule. There's lots of speculation as to what may have happened to it, but our best guess is that some kids dug it up after it was buried. And while we were fortunate to have a list of some of the items that were in there, it was kind of like a treasure hunt for a couple of weeks, and quite a story because we were laughing the whole way through it as you would dig, and then there would be some water in the hole, and then you would dig, and then the power was out. So that was kind of fun. I've been reading some of the promotional materials and some of the Days in May books that were done. And someone said that if you bought land here in the late 60s or the early 70s, you had to be a believer, because at that point there weren't all the canals, and you would be buying a waterfront lot. John Talbot told me a story where you would stand at the back of one lot and they would have marked where the bulkhead would begin. Then they would have marked where the bulkhead on the other side of the canal would be once the canal was dug. So you had to believe that this was going to be a waterfront lot. Well, so I started swimming on the swim team here when I was about 5 years old. My parents owned property, but we lived in just south of Berlin. So I lived in the area, but wasn't in the Pines. And so I swam on the swim team from when I was 5 till when I was 16. So I remember the sports corps when we were allowed to have a high dive. That was very different. When I go to the beach club, I feel like I'm going home because my mom worked on 52nd Street. So I would go from 49th Street. I would stop at Wetzel's because they had soda with good ice cubes. And then, so I mean, even still, when I go to that area of the beach, I feel like I'm going home. Our history section is a work in progress. We hope to develop this history section into an archive of some of the materials that we have stored for everyone to be able to see.